In a just released annual report, the Oklahoma Census estimates 620,000 Oklahomans are living in poverty, almost 16% of our population, and that number includes 1 in 5 Oklahoma children. Jason Doral has more on the report's findings and what's being done to address them.
It doesn't take much to kind of push someone over that edge.
Megan Moeller is on the front lines of Oklahoma's poverty issues as the Homeless Alliance's Associate Executive Director. She's not surprised to see Oklahoma's high ranking in the U.S. Census Bureau's annual poverty report.
Really what we're seeing in numbers right now is the result of a lot of COVID-era programs ending. And I think we're definitely seeing kind of the squeeze of inflation happening. So call volume is staying really high.
Poverty is having an impact on Oklahoma's children, too.
As a state, I think we've struggled to take care of people in poverty. And so it's not surprising to me to see these high rates of poverty, particularly among children.
That's leading to other issues for Oklahoma's youth. Mueller says the measure of trauma called Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACEs, shows that poverty has a long-term impact on kids.
Right? So we have a lot of children who have really high ACE scores. And so it really shouldn't come as any surprise to us when we have children experiencing high rates of trauma that we also see high rates of children in poverty, and then subsequently those children becoming adults who experience poverty and homelessness.
One of the many reasons why Oklahoma's kids are struggling with poverty is because many of them have one parent or both parents who are incarcerated.
We support grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. Oklahoma, we're constantly top 10 in the nation for the number of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, really due to the high incarceration rate of men and women.
Sunbeam Family Services offers help to grandparents and parents in several ways, including early childhood education centers.
So many of the children in our centers, they qualify for subsidy, or their families qualify for subsidy. So because that, they're able to attend our centers, and their parents are able to work. Sometimes parents work one job, sometimes they work 2 jobs.
Those agencies have their work cut out for them. Oklahoma's poverty rate is above the national average at 15.8% versus 11.5%. Both of those rates are higher than what we experienced before the COVID-19 pandemic began. Another factor playing a role in more Oklahomans struggling to make ends meet is a drop in household income, while inflation has become a major issue for consumers. Oklahoma's real median household income dropped last year from 2021's levels by nearly $1,400, and Oklahoma's household income is well below the national average. Gabriela Ramirez Perez with the Oklahoma Policy Institute has run the numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau.
What this shows that our ranking hasn't changed is that our current policies to address poverty aren't being effective enough, and so we need change and our policymakers to look at additional policies or way to fund or expand our existing policies in a more robust way that can actually make a difference.
Perez contends safety net programs, workforce development, child care, and education are all interrelated in trying to abate poverty.
And one thing leads to another, and if we improve all of our metrics, then not just our poverty levels will improve, but also standards of living. Oklahomans will have an easier time living here in our state.
For those struggling now, the state of Oklahoma also has a slate of poverty abatement programs. So, Amy, what kind of programs do we have?
So the programs administered by the Adult and Family Services Division is child care subsidy, food distribution, the low-income home energy assistance program, the state supplemental payment, Sooner Care or Medicaid eligibility for the aged, blind, and disabled population, supplemental nutrition assistance or SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, and then the temporary assistance for needy families, which is TANF.
The highest demand state government had for these types of safety net programs peaked in April of 2020 as the COVID pandemic took hold in the U.S. The demand is starting to show signs of slowing despite Oklahoma's high poverty rate.
Things stayed high for a couple of years, but we have seen it in the past several months decreasing, almost back to normal levels. It is still probably above pre-COVID numbers. But it is kind of steadying out there and getting back closer to the pre-COVID numbers.
A longer-term solution at getting more Oklahomans to rise above poverty could come in the form of workforce development. According to State Chamber CEO Chad Warmington, that means showing students several pathways to good jobs.
There's no need for any high school student to leave the K-12 system and not have a pretty good idea on a career pathway that they can be on, that they've actually been working on while they've been in the K-12 system, so that they can enter the workforce straight away from high school, making a really good family sustaining wage. And then there's just nothing but upward potential for them from there.
Because there's a need for skilled workers now, there's a path to a higher paying job for those experiencing poverty.
Reskilling and upskilling is going to be a big part of kind of our workforce efforts, in the sense that there's plenty of jobs out there with just a little bit more college credit or just a little bit more career tech training. People can move up into these other positions.
Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.
Jason, thank you.